Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of All in All with Alex. I'm your host, of course, Alex, and today we have a very special guest in the building. And I know I'm always horrible with names, so I'm gonna take a shot at it, and we're gonna say Epiphany.
You got it. You did it perfectly.
Got it. So, how you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing blessed. I can't complain at all. So, can you give the people just a little bit of background about yourself and what you do, and then we'll jump into the questions.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Mhm.
So, my name's Epiphany Jordan, and I am on a mission to rebrand human touch. And people are always like, what does that mean? And we're going to talk about that. I've been fairly obsessed with the topic of platonic touch, non sexual touch, nurturing human touch for about 10 years. When I lived in Austin, Texas, I had a hands on ritualized touch business called Karuna Sessions. We ended up shuttering during the pandemic. And then about 5 years into the business, I realized, we had kind of luxury pricing, and I realized that a lot of the people who needed what we did the most could afford it the least. So I ended up writing a book called Somebody Hold Me, The Single Person's Guide to Nurturing Human Touch, which is designed to teach single people how to get their touch needs met because, usually really the only way that is acceptable is through a lover or a family, and not everybody has those things. And then let's see what else. So during the pandemic, I started thinking about wanting to create public health programs that used human touch as a wellness practice. And I didn't have any background in healthcare or medicine or public health or anything. And I applied to the University of South Florida, which has this really amazing program called social marketing, which is using commercial marketing techniques to create public health behavioral interventions. And on my application for grad school, I had said that I thought that human touch had a branding problem, that the way that we think about it doesn't work for most people. So last year, my faculty advisor came back to me and was like, okay, well, you said you want to rebrand human touch. So what would that look like? And so she had me do this project. And that was where I got this, or I kind of, like I said, I've been on this mission to rebrand human touch for a long time, but I got a lot of data from the research that I did that gives me an idea of how we might go about doing that.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So let's jump into it. So we're gonna so from 2013 to 2020, you provided plutonic touch therapy through your business. Can you kind of go into a little bit more detail on the importance of ritualized touch experience? Your ritualized. I'm sorry if I could talk correctly. Your ritualized touch experiences.
Sure. So, have you ever heard of professional cuddlers, Alex? Have you ever heard of this concept before?
I have.
Okay. So people used to say that we were professional cuddlers, but kind of the setup that we had was a little bit different.
Mhm.
Usually, when you go to see a professional cuddler, it's a one-on-one thing where it's usually a woman providing the service, and not all of the clients are men, but a lot of them are. And ours was done with two practitioners. So the person who was getting a session from us felt like they were a king or queen that was being waited on hand and foot. And the ritualized part of it, we would have them come in, we would bless them, we would wash their feet, we would ask them to meditate, and then we'd ask them to change into ritual garments that we provided for them. It was like a tunic and pants, the kurta that's a very common thing for men to wear in India.
Mhm.
And then, we would go over some rules and boundaries, and then we would start on the touch. And The reason for the ritualized part of it is because it's a big deal to let a stranger touch you or two strangers touch you. We don't have common social scripts for that. It's just a weird thing. There's like, all these things going through people's heads. Are they gonna, am I safe? Are they gonna touch me in a way I don't want to? While I have my eyes closed and I'm relaxing, is somebody else going to come in and steal all my stuff? Or, all these different things. And so the ritualized part of it was to make people feel comfortable, to make them feel like they were in control, so that they kind of knew what was going to be happening. We gave them a safe word, which is something from BDSM, so that we could, anytime that they were feeling out of sorts emotionally or physically, if something was tickling or didn't feel good, they could give us their safe word, or the safe word, and we would instantly stop. And so, yeah, the ritual part of it is just something that is kind of needed to kind of bring people into the world slowly and gently, and to let them know that that they're safe and that they're in control and that they can relax and let us take care of them, and that they're going to be safe with us.
Okay. Okay. That's pretty interesting. So can you discuss the significance of human touch and its impact on physical, emotional, and mental well being?
I absolutely can. So the human touch is something, well, touch in general is something that's common to all mammals. You see, baby cats or baby cows or whatever, they're all like snuggling up to their mothers. It's super, super important for human development, for neurological development. When babies are born, their brains aren't completely formed, and having a lot of touch and closeness with the parents or grandparents or brothers and sisters in the first 18 months of life will set a human being up for emotional regulation and a secure attachment for the rest of their lives. It's like I think the window, like the really crucial window, is about 5 months to 10 months. And, if something interrupts that, or they don't have touch from an attentive caregiver, it can keep reverberating throughout their life for, into adulthood. So it's like, you know, getting people off to a really good start. Um, Touch and oxytocin, which is the hormone that is released when somebody touches us, does a lot of great things for our body. It helps you sleep better. It boosts your immune system. It cuts down on cortisol in your heart, which is the stress hormone. It lowers your blood pressure. It What else does it do? They've done it, like it helps people sober up. Like if they give rats that are drunk oxytocin, it makes them sober. It helps with wound healing. It reduces inflammation. All these different things. And as far as the mental and emotional part of it goes, I mean, it's really like the simplest way to tell somebody, if the touch is wanted and agreed to by both people, it's a really great way to say, you matter. I see you. I honor your struggles as a human being. I mean, you see, like at funerals, people are hugging each other a lot, because they're comforting each other when they're grieving. People who have there's something that's called touch hunger, that is when you go a long time without touch. It can make people depressed and paranoid, and it makes your muscles all tight, and um, you're distrustful of people, and you don't sleep well, and you might be anxious. So it's just, I mean, if you think about it, it's like when we started out as a species, we would sleep in big piles in caves for warmth and safety. So it's like, and we even did that up until 100 years ago, before the advent of electricity. If you lived in a cold climate, you would have been sleeping in a bed with your entire family in order to stay warm, to keep from freezing to death. And so it's like our bodies know that feeling. It's like I think whether you had really good connective love and care, and being held a lot by your parents, it's like our bodies know that feeling. It's like, this is what it feels like to be safe and cared for and loved and nurtured. And um, and it doesn't even need to be a lot of touch. If you haven't had it for a long time, just like somebody putting their hand on your shoulder can be reassuring. If you're talking about something that's recounting a painful experience, it's just a way of letting people know that you're there with them and for them. And it's powerful and
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah. Okay. I definitely would agree. So in your experience, what are some of the societal and cultural barriers that contribute to touch deficit?
Oh boy, pull up a chair, Alex. We got quite a list here.
I'm on my look.
Um,
I'm on my couch, my little sofa couch.
okay,
So we got
perfect. So just relax and let's talk about this. So there's a lot of different reasons for it, things have really, like, in the past 100 years, we've become a lot less physically close to each other, and there's several different reasons for it. One of the biggest ones is that people are marrying later in life and having less children. I mean, I'm sure. I don't know. Are you single? Are you married? Where are you at with that?
in a relationship, not married though.
Okay. So I'm sure you hear from your single friends though about how terrible it is. People struggle with dating so much. I think something like 30 or 40% of people are not in a relationship. They're not living together. It's like of Americans. So there's a lot of us that are single, and that's a pretty common source of touch, although it doesn't necessarily guarantee it. There's a lot of people who are married who don't get as much touch as they like. If you're having problems with, if one partner doesn't want to have sex with the other one, and in their mind touch equals sex, it's like, if their partner goes in to hug them, they're going to be like, get off of me, you want to have sex and I don't want to have sex right now. So that's this idea that we only touch people in a sexual context is that's a biggie. Another place where people get a lot of touch is from their children when their children are younger. We're having fewer children than we have in the past. I know a lot of people in this day and age are like, I can't afford to have kids, or, I'm afraid of the world that we're going to leave them, or what have you. Um, and so that resource has been cut off. Another thing that goes along with that is intergenerational touch. We used to live in multi-generational households where, like, we would live with our grandparents, and that was how they would get a lot of touches, helping to take care of the kids. I think only about 20% of households right now are multi-generational. What else? People have outsourced a lot of their intimacy and touch needs as well to their pets. I can't remember. I think on Valentine's Day, we've spent something like $16 billion on Valentine's Day presents for our pets, So it's like, obviously, that isn't that crazy? That's
Wow,
nuts, right?
I would have
Yeah.
never
So,
thought.
and pets are wonderful. I have, like, right now, I have a elderly cat who just wants to be in my lap all the time. She wants comfort, and so it's like, a lot of people snuggle with their dogs and their cats, and I don't know, maybe they snuggle with their snakes and their hamsters too, and their hermit crabs. But so it's like we're more dependent on our pets. Let's see, mental health issues are up. We have a lot of, I mean, maybe we've always had a lot of addiction and depression and anxiety and PTSD, but that's it's hard for people. Um, if you're not feeling good, it could be hard to be in a relationship, or hard to ask. It's a way that we isolate ourselves. Of course, the little boxes that we carry around in our pocket. When you go out these days, everybody's got their face buried in their phone. We're really in a place with a lot of information overload. We take in, tons and tons of data in our brains. We're just inundated from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to sleep. And, so I think that causes us to live in our heads a lot more. I think those are a lot of the big ones.
Okay.
Oh, we work a lot. It's like we spend 40% of our day at work. We don't have a lot of places to socialize and meet people and connect. I mean, people, like if you go to church on Sunday, you see people hugging each other there. And, a lot of people don't have that anymore. So, yeah, there's a lot of reasons we've created a very isolating culture for ourselves. And, it's not helping things. So.
Right. Right. So, you spoke about solving loneliness with human touch at South by Southwest Festival in
Yes.
2019.
Uh-huh.
Can you share some of your insights from that experience and the response that you received?
Yeah. So we had a terrible time slot. It was like first thing on Sunday morning. Saturday night's like a big party night. So we didn't get a lot. We didn't have a lot of people in the audience, but um, some of the stuff that I've already shared about how physically isolated we are. One of the things that I like during the pandemic, I started seeing a little bit of scientific research, that was connecting loneliness and human touch. But I studied loneliness a lot in school when I was getting my master's in public health. And loneliness does four main things to your body. It increases inflammation, it raises your blood pressure, it raises your cortisol, and it damages your immune system. And I'm like, well, touch and oxytocin do exactly the four opposite things. So I'm just like, why aren't we really talking about this? And, I think that. It, like as I was like looking at a lot of different research studies over the past few years about touch, it's something that I think a lot of researchers are married, so it's like they just kind of take it for granted. I think a lot of times people who are partnered or who have kids or what have you, who that fill that void, just kind of take it for granted that everybody has it. So yeah, during the pandemic, there was a little bit of research on, the connection between loneliness and human touch, but it's just not something that people are talking about a whole lot. And we talked about, oh boy, it's been 5 years since I've done the presentation, so forgive me. We talked about, people don't know that there are possibilities. They don't know who they would ask if they wanted more touch. They don't know how to ask for it. There's so much fear around it. This emphasis on consent and Me Too has made it a lot harder for people to connect physically, whether that's dating or just in general in the workplace. It's like touch could be misconstrued really easily. But for me, there was a group of researchers that were trying to create a pill for loneliness, and I'm like, why would you do that? It's like it's weird and awkward to try and get touch because we don't have common social scripts for it, but it's also kind of the easiest thing. It's like the shortest distance, that makes people feel connected, and I mean it's connection made physical. So there's a lot of weirdness and distrust around it, but I've really found when we did a little bit of a demo. We had somebody come up on stage and did, two of us did touch on them, and it was like they were like, "Wow, that's really relaxing," and it didn't feel sexual at all, and so it's like it can be done, but it's like we don't really know how to go across about trying to get it. I talk to people all the time who tell me that they're touch starved, or I talk to people who are like, I had a really bad childhood, and I don't like touch, and I see that other people like it, and can you help me with that? But people just have no idea about how to go about getting more of it. So.
Hmm. So you mentioned the word consent. What role does consent and boundaries play in your approach to promoting healthy and nurturing touch experiences?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, so when I was working on my book, I kind of came up with this system. I called it the four S's, which is slow, specific, structured, and safe. So it's like you want to approach touch really slowly. Like it might just be, like I said, like putting your hand on somebody's shoulder, or just touching fingers or something to start, so that people get more comfortable with it. um, Structured means doing it in a very kind of formulaic thing that feels very weird and stiff and awkward, but it's like if you set it up and go through it as exercises first, then it's like it it becomes like this whole experience where it's like, okay, well, there's rules, and I'm going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and we're going to do it for this amount of time. And a lot of times that feels really weird to people, but it's like you don't have to do it every time. Once you've done that, then you have this better frame of reference, for people. If I was like, hey Alex, you want to come over and watch a movie and we can like snuggle up on the couch, you wouldn't be like, why is she asking me that? What does she want? What does she mean? Because it's like we've shared this experience in a structured setting. So now we both know, oh, that's what she means by, platonic touch. Because, people, if you ask 10 people, what does touch mean to you, you'll get 10 different answers. It's such an individual thing for people. Um, so then slow, structured, specific, asking people, um, for, asking somebody if you can touch them for, like, um, would it be okay if I put my hand on your face? Or the other person saying, I would like it if you touched my shoulder. So that you get used to this idea, because a lot of us, I think probably most of us have experiences with non-consensual touch, and so it's like, oh wow, I can actually ask for what I want, and I can say no to stuff. It's like it takes some practice, but it's important. And the thing about boundaries that are hard for people is that they change all the time. If I say no to somebody about something, it might be not with you, not that thing, not right now. It's like they're kind of fluid, and especially if it's somebody that you already have a friendship or a relationship with, it's like it people often think, if somebody says no, that it's this rejection, but it's like you can continue having a friendship or a relationship. It's just that you have to switch it off. And then the safe part about it is just recognizing that people have different levels of comfort around touch. People have different experiences. I mean,
Mhm.
there's, what's the statistic? Let me see if I can draw it out of my head. I think 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 8 boys is has had childhood sexual abuse. It's like, you know, uh, and if you think about stuff, not even just sexual or like being groped or something. It could be, that maybe you had parents who beat you or something, and everybody brings this different level of comfort. Some people are like super touch enthusiasts and they just want to hug everybody all the time. And,
Right.
some people are like really, really withdrawn and don't like to be touched at all. So, just getting this idea that it's not the same for everybody, and that you got to kind of slow down and find a place where you can get to where both people are saying yes. And it might be like somebody wants a hug and I'm like, I'm not comfortable with that, but we can hold hands. And so it's like, this idea of giving people autonomy and figuring out what feels good to them
Mhm.
is just a game changer, right?
Right. Right. So, um, are there any transformations that you've witnessed that really stood out to you as far as, um, witnessing people embrace, your teachings on human touch?
Yeah, actually, boy, I had this experience. Hang on a second. Let me do the math here. This was over 30 years ago. I was at a workshop, and this woman was having a really hard time. She had been struggling with, I think, her relationship with her mother or a friend or something, and she was just really wrecked. And that night, she was getting ready to go to bed, and I came over to her bed, and I, like, pulled the covers up and just kind of stroked her face like her mother would have. And she mentioned it to me for years afterwards. Um, when I was doing my research, the word transformational came up. I had another similar experience about 10 years ago with I was living in Texas at the time, and a friend of mine in California she was going through a divorce, and both of her parents had just died, or her mother had just died, and she was really acutely feeling that. And I told her, I was like, we were getting together to have a little potluck party with a bunch of our friends, and I was like, when I see you, I'm happy to do some mothering. And I sat on the couch, and she just kind of leaned back into me, and I put my arms around her, and we just sat like that and talked for about half an hour. And she was just like that. It just made such a difference. I've when I lead people through exercises from the book, that allow them to play around with touch. People will just be like, that feels so good. Can we keep doing this? Can we do this again? I just, this is just so amazing. I mean, people just get really blissed out. Um, the one word I would often use to describe people after they came and had a session with us was relieved. Just like, it was like people look 10 years younger a lot of times
Mm.
when we were done. Just this idea of like being held, and this being able to feel safe and cared for, and just really to let themselves drop into that experience, to get out of their heads and into their bodies. I mean, it's profound. And I really feel like most of us need so much more of that.
Right.
It's like the world's a rough place right now, and it's nice to be able to drop your guard and be tender with somebody else, or
Yeah.
more than one person. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. So, what do you feel has been the most rewarding aspect of your work as advocate for human touch and nurturing connection?
Wow, that's a great question. I have such a hard time zeroing in on one thing. It's like I want to make art about this. I want to write another book right now. I want to go into business. I think about starting Karuna Sessions up all the time. I want to do more research. uh, doing sessions, doing Karuna sessions was so deeply satisfying, like on a spiritual level to me. I mean, to be able to care for people in such a deep way, it was it just felt really great. It wasn't draining. I just, I loved being able to mother people like that. You know, I mean, so many of us don't get that opportunity once we get a little bit older. So, I mean, if you're lucky, you find it, you find that kind of safety and peace with a partner, but it doesn't always work out that way.
Right. So, what role does vulnerability and authenticity play in your work and in promoting healthy touch experiences?
Wow, that's an excellent question. I love that. So when I did my research project, I interviewed I did qualitative research. So we had some, I would interview people for like between half an hour and an hour to talk to them about their experiences. And the way that I set it up, my I researched a bunch of frameworks for branding and rebranding, and I settled on storytelling and brand archetypes.
Hmm.
And so the way that I did my research was I wrote three stories about three different ways that people could get their touch needs met, and three different ways that they found out about this. And one of the stories that I wrote was a woman who had just gotten divorced. She was like out to brunch with her friends, and she was talking about that she was having a terrible time dating. And she had seen this video of this woman who was like cuddling with her friends, and she asks her friends, would you be open to doing this? And there's four of them. Two of the women say yes. One of the women is no, not interested. So when I read that story to people, one of the first question I would ask was, what stuck out to you about this story? And almost every single person I interviewed was like, wow, it was really brave and vulnerable of this woman to ask for that. And I feel like, it's like a lot of us won't ask for it or don't ask for it because we're ashamed or we're embarrassed. It's like, well, everybody else has all this great touch and I don't, so there must be something wrong with me. But yet it's a really common thing. I mean, I've talked to people who are like, yeah, I signed up to be a professional cuddler because I'm touch starved. It's like there's so many people who are having this problem, but nobody wants to broach the subject. Everybody's scared to,
Hmm.
but it feels like, if you do bring it up, you're rewarded for it. People are like, wow, thank you for coming clean about that. Gee, I'm feeling that same way, and maybe we can figure something out. So as far as the authenticity part goes, I can tell you that if you try to broach the subject with friends, it's going to be really weird and awkward, and nobody's going to know how to do it, and it's gonna feel stilted or just weird. But that's authentic too, right? It's like we spend so much time putting on this front and saying, "Oh, everything's fine," and a lot
Hmm.
of times it's not.
Right.
And uh, so it's like we're all like kind of sitting on opposite sides of the room with our arms folded and going, no, everything's okay, but there's this part of us who's like, no, I really want to reach out and try and change it. So I feel like if people do that, that they're rewarded for it. And a lot of times it goes even better than they expect.
Hmm. Right. Um. So Can you discuss the importance of continuous learning and growth, both for yourself and for the people that you work with?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a super learning nerd. I both my parents were college professors. I grew up with a huge library. Actually, my library when I was a kid was totally my happy place. You know, it's like I always have my nose buried in a book. You know, I have a habit of reading afterwards, or every night before I go to sleep. I think that there's no way, you know, it's like if somebody's feeling touch starved, they're not going to be able to solve that problem by staying in their comfort zone. They're going to need to be curious. They're going to need to be honest with themselves and other people. They're gonna have to admit that, you know, that they don't have everything handled, and it can be a really uncomfortable place for people, because you know it's hard to swim against the tide. You know, it's like this myth of rugged American individualism. You know, and I can do it all myself and pull myself up by my bootstraps. It's, you know, it's like we all kind of go along with that. But I mean, at least in my circles, people are like, yeah, this isn't working for me so well anymore.
Mhm.
So I don't know what kind of conversations people you know are having, but um, you know, I feel like also too that this is just a good thing for somebody to think of as a learning experience. You know, they could go through and, you know, do this whole thing and, you know, ask for more touch from their friends and start doing it and just be like, yeah, no, I don't want that. You know, I'll wait for a boyfriend or girlfriend to come along or what have you. So I think not taking it all too seriously, you know, and allowing yourself to be like kind of playful and have fun and try some different things.
Mhm.
There's been a lot of research that people learn more easily when they're playing instead of studying. You know, like kids, if they're playing, new concepts come to them much more easily, and it's kind of great to get back into that space.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. So, um, how do you hope to inspire and empower individuals to prioritize their need for human connection and nurturing touch?
Well, I think that the first thing that people need to understand, you know, it's like there's a lot of stuff that you have to go through in your mind before you can, you know, I mean, for some people it's really easy, you know, like for sure it's easier for women than men. You know, it's like if I go up to somebody and ask them for a hug, it's a lot less threatening if a guy does it, you know, and I know that a lot of men are acutely aware of that. Um, but I think in general, it's like you have to figure out what your own barriers are. It's like this whole process starts in your head. You know, you because for every person, it's deeply, deeply individual. Um, and I would get curious about it. You know, it's like there's so many different things that influence how we feel about touch. Our upbringing is the biggest one. A lot of people who had abusive childhoods have a really difficult time with being touched and, you know, trusting people. Our gender, our religious upbringing. Um, where we're, you know, the culture we grew up in, you know, like some cultures are really touchy feely. I think they found Puerto Rico is the most touchy feely country in the world. You know, as opposed to somebody who grew up in England, you know, which is a very not touchy feely country or company. You know what your job is. Like for instance, I had a friend who was a he was a CEO of a company, and he's a super loving, hugging, friendly guy, and he said that he had to really it was really hard for him to like pull back and not go to hug his employees because while he was just being friendly, his employees were like, oh wait, this guy's my boss, so I have to hug him whether I want to or not.
Mm,
So relationship status, where you're at in life, so it's like there's all this kind of thinking through that I think needs to be done, and sometimes it can take some time for people to kind of figure out, and then figuring out different options for where you want to get touch. I'm a huge advocate of not only trying to get your touch needs met with friends, but also to do it in a group of friends, because one person touching one person still kind of has that vibe or that implication that, oh, two people are touching, so there's going to be sex involved. Whereas if you had a group of like three or four people, then it becomes a social thing.
mm,
Primates do that. Monkeys do that. They spend about 10 or 20% of their time doing social grooming, not just for removing parasites, but also because it fosters sharing and cooperation. I love that. I think that's like the coolest thing ever. So and it's like if you're trying to like do this with a bunch of friends, then it can become really silly and playful, and you can laugh a lot, and it feels like being a kid. It's just kind of a nice way to take a break.
mhm,
And another thing that I think is really important for people to think about is if you're doing this in a way with people that you already know, this is free. This is a free way of improving your health, and getting better relationships, feeling closer to people. But it's going to look different for every person. Like today I went. My mother has dementia, and I went to a support group for people with dementia. And, it's like everybody was hugging each other because they're in this similar place in life. I was with a group that was made up of children who were caregiving their parents, and so you're in this similar headspace and you can relate. It might be similar for like people who um, are getting divorced, if you're in a support group of divorced people, or you're going through sobriety, or, trying to recover from an injury, so it's like finding this commonality. But, for some people, it might be friends. For some people, it might be that they need to go see a professional cuddler. It's
mhm.
like exercise. It's going to look different for every person. And it's important to figure out the best course for yourself, and that might take some time to kind of figure out,
Mhm.
and figure out what it is you want and how to best go about getting it.
Right. Okay. So, do you have any, maybe any more um, speaking events or any exciting projects or initiatives that's coming up?
Yeah. Actually, do you know when our episode's going to air, Alex? Some
Uh,
people, some people have like a huge backlog and don't get to them for months. Or
yeah, it'll probably be middle August.
oh, okay. The middle of August is when I'm doing my next thing. I'm going to be, there's this new festival in Sacramento, California called the Goddess Festival. I think it's
Okay.
August 17th and 18th. And I'll be speaking there about this topic of rebranding human touch, which you and I didn't get into a lot, but that's okay. And then I'll probably be doing a couple of things around it at Burning Man. I don't know if any of your listeners go to Burning Man. That's my next thing. And then it's looking more like I'm going to, well, I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do it as a book or a video training, but I want to do a piece of stuff on non-sexual touch for couples, like, for married couples or couples who are living together because they struggle with it as well. So I think that's kind of my next big project. And if people want some one-on-one stuff, I do offer life coaching around this topic. Because most people are like, I have nobody I can talk to about this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. That's good. So can they people can just go to maybe like your website or something to reach out to you about
Yes.
getting coached on it?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I probably sent you everything, and if not, just hit me up afterwards and I'll send you all my different links and stuff.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I'll put all that in the description and the show notes so that way anybody watching, they can just go straight to it and click the link. It'll take them straight to whatever, whether it's your website or whether it's your social media and so on and so forth. So
perfect. Yeah, I've been a little lackadaisical about posting on socials. I actually ran out of time. I was like, "Oh, I should make an Instagram post saying that I'm about to record with All in All with Alex."
yeah.
And but I'm gonna finish that after we're done and pop it up there so that because I'm just trying to talk a little bit more about what I'm doing and
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So is there anything that you want to leave for our viewers before we get up out of here?
I hope that that something came out of this that sparked your mind and made you think about this topic differently than you had in the past. And I hope that you'll be brave and vulnerable. And if you're feeling touch starved, take some steps to try and figure out how to solve that because it's one of the most human things that we can possibly do with and for each other.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. I would agree. So everybody that's watching, you guys, you make sure you go to the description, you go check out her book, whether it's you can attend one of the speaking engagements, follow her on social media, so on and so forth. But you guys have just watched another episode of All in All with Alex, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.